Good to see you here. Tonight, we're clocking into work in the mythological realm. Because while heroes get the headlines and gods get the temples, someone still has to file the scrolls, watch the gates, eat the nightmares, and drag the sun across the sky without veering into a mountain. This is the mythological job market, and it's weird. The shifts are eternal, the pay is symbolic, and the benefits, mostly curses. Some beings were born into these roles. Others got assigned by accident. A few volunteered. But all of them are out there somewhere, still doing their jobs, night after night, century after century, long after the stories forgot their names. So tonight, we're touring Olympus HR, or maybe the Underworld staffing department. Wherever it is, the vibes are divine, the tasks are unusual, and the co-workers include a dream-eating tapir and a goat-legged scream god. As always, welcome. Let me know where you're joining from and what time it is there. We've got a long shift ahead. Now dim the lights, quiet your mind, and let's meet the beings who made ancient mythology function, one extremely odd job at a time. Every morning, Helios climbs into a blazing golden chariot, straps in, and whips the reins. He's not joyriding. He's driving the actual sun. Pulled by 4 immortal fire-breathing horses, his chariot rips across the sky from east to west, dragging daylight behind it. And unlike the moon or tides or occasional eclipse, Helios doesn't get weekends. No cloudy day exemptions, no PTO. His job is to exist so precisely that mortals invent sundials based on his route. He rises from a golden palace at dawn, zooms overhead at noon, and splashes into the western sea at dusk. That's right. He doesn't just set. He lands, cools off in a magic bath, and then takes a glowing boat underneath the earth so he can show up again tomorrow. It's the original night shift. Also, no accidents allowed. If Helios so much as swerves, the earth burns. This happened once. His son, Phaethon, asked to try driving the sun. Within 5 minutes, the sky caught fire and Zeus had to throw a lightning bolt at him. So now Helios keeps the reins very much to himself. Not glamorous, not creative, but dependable? Absolutely. He's the universe's most overqualified delivery driver. And across the way, someone else is also working overtime, just to hold up the ceiling. Contrary to popular gym posters, Atlas doesn't hold up the world, he holds up the sky, which honestly makes it even worse, because there's no break, no place to set it down, no moment to scratch your back without, unzipping the atmosphere. After backing the wrong side in the divine war, Titan versus Olympian, Atlas got sentenced by Zeus to eternal sky support. So he stands there, shoulders locked, knees braced, supporting the celestial dome like a divine coat rack. Occasionally, someone tricks him. Heracles once asked Atlas to fetch some apples and offered to hold the sky, just for a second. Atlas, tired and hopeful, agreed. Heracles immediately faked a strap adjustment and handed the sky back. Brutal. Atlas isn't just strong. He's the cautionary tale of cosmic middle management. Do your job too well, and you'll be doing it forever. Speaking of forever, let's check in on Sisyphus, who really redefined repeat task. Imagine getting punished with cardio. Sisyphus was clever, too clever. He tricked gods, cheated death twice, and generally acted like the CEO of smugness. So the gods gave him the perfect punishment, a simple, repetitive job that goes nowhere. His task: push a giant boulder up a steep hill. Sounds doable. Except, every time he gets close to the top, it rolls back down. Every single time. There's no variation, no holiday version, No team-building retreats. Just rock, slope, regret. It's the divine version of being stuck in email chains forever, or updating spreadsheets that never save. And he can't quit, because the moment he tries, that boulder probably crushes him, and he has to start over anyway. In a weird way, Sisyphus became a symbol of resilience, absurd resilience, the kind where you keep showing up to a job you know is pointless, but you do it anyway, because that's the assignment. And as Sisyphus rolls his burden once again, a quieter figure is up in the night sky, clocking into her own lonely commute. By night, the sky belongs to Selene. She's the moon goddess, and unlike her brother Helios, who blazes across the sky with roaring fire horses, Selene's shift is silent, silver and soft. She rides a chariot too, pulled by pale, winged horses or sometimes gentle bulls, depending on the version. And she sails quietly from dusk till dawn. Her job sounds poetic, and it is, until you realize she's doing it alone, every night, forever. No one claps, no one notices, unless she's late or blocking a star. She's the patron of full moons, of lovers, of sleepwalkers, of night watchmen. But her personal life? Messy. She once fell in love with a mortal shepherd named Endymion, and asked Zeus to make him immortal. Zeus did, by putting him in permanent sleep. Romantic? Sure. Functional? Less so. Selene's story isn't about chaos or punishment. It's about duty and solitude. A gentle goddess doing a job that only gets noticed when she's gone. But there's someone else who understands devotion to duty, and he's much better at paperwork. In the Egyptian afterlife, you don't just die, you get processed. And Anubis is in charge of the entire system, guardian of the dead, overseer of mummification, weigher of hearts. He's like a divine coroner, customs officer, and moral auditor all rolled into one jackal-headed god. When someone dies, Anubis ensures they're properly preserved. That means no rotting, no mess, and definitely no skipping rituals. He invented embalming, invented it. You know a guy's serious when death itself follows his protocol. But he's not cold or cruel. Anubis is precise, fair. He balances a person's heart against the feather of Ma'at, the symbol of truth. If your heart is lighter than the feather, welcome to paradise. He'll guide you in. If it's heavier, he steps aside, and Amit devours your soul. Anubis doesn't punish. He just runs the scanner. He's calm, quiet, professional, never loses a file. And now, as we leave the realm of solar shifts and cosmic administrators, it's time to meet the next category of mythological employees. The ones stuck guarding doors, caves, realms, and secrets, whether they like it or not. Cerberus is the ultimate do not enter sign, except furry, fanged, and occasionally wagging three tails at once. This three-headed hound guards the gates of the underworld, standing between the land of the living and the dead. His job is simple. Don't let the dead out, and don't let the living in. That's it. No head pats, no chasing sticks, no who's a good boy, unless you want your arm judged by three different mouths. He's not just bark. Cerberus is enormous, terrifying, and allegedly has a serpent for a tail. Some say his mane bristles with snakes. Others say he just smells really bad. Either way, you don't sneak past him. But here's the thing. Cerberus doesn't hate his job. He's good at it. Loyal to Hades. Zero nonsense. And when someone does manage to get by him, like Orpheus with a sad song, or Heracles with brute strength, Cerberus always bounces back. No tantrums, no reassignments, just returns to post. He's mythological security done right, a bit overqualified, deeply underappreciated, and still showing up for every shift. And once the souls do get inside, they'll meet someone even hungrier than Cerberus. Amit isn't a god. She's a divine consequence. Part crocodile, part lion, part hippo. Amit sits beside the scales of justice in the Egyptian afterlife. When a soul's heart is weighed against the feather of Ma'at, the symbol of truth, Amit watches. If the heart's pure, she stays put. If the heart's heavy with sin, she eats it. No hesitation, no seasoning, just crunch. She doesn't chase souls. She doesn't hunt. She just waits, eternally. Her whole job is, if you mess up, I'm the last thing you see. Some depictions call her the devourer of the dead. Others just show her lurking with perfect posture, like a receptionist at divine judgment. Except instead of scheduling appointments, she cancels souls. But she's not evil. She's order, cosmic balance, a consequence, not a villain. Still, compared to Amit's calm horror, the next mythological figure is way more talkative and way more frustrating. You're walking along a nice road near Thebes when suddenly, boom, a lion-bodied woman with wings blocks your path and asks you a riddle. Welcome to Sphinx Security. Her job, guard a road, ask a question, eat you if you get it wrong, which you will, because she's very strict and very bored. Her famous riddle goes, what walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 3 at night? Answer, a human, through life stages. But here's the catch. She doesn't want you to get it right. She's a gatekeeper in the worst way. Think DMV, but with fangs and feathers. Oedipus famously solved the riddle, and the Sphinx immediately yeeted herself off a cliff in defeat. Dramatic, yes. Union rules, unclear. But her job was clear-cut. Block, quiz, punish. She's a walking multiple-choice exam with fatal consequences. Yet compared to our next guardian, she was practically welcoming. Because the Nemean lion didn't ask questions. It just crushed bones. The Nemean lion lived in a quiet valley, minding its own business, looking like it belonged on a royal flag. Massive, golden, glowing probably. The only problem, it couldn't be harmed. Its fur was impenetrable. No sword, spear, or arrow could pierce it. So naturally, it was declared a problem. Because humans cannot leave chill monsters alone. Enter Heracles, assigned to defeat it as part of his 12 labors. Regular weapons didn't work, so he wrestled it to death with his bare hands. And then, in the most metal move imaginable, he skinned it with its own claw and turned that into a cloak. A cloak that was both armor and fashion statement. But was the lion really a threat, or just guarding its den? We'll never know. All we do know is that sometimes invincible on a resume still doesn't mean job security. Speaking of security, our next mythological employee guards everything, including the very planet itself. Meet Jörmungandr, the world serpent. So big he wraps around the entire earth and bites his own tail. Not for symbolism, just to keep himself in place. He's one of Loki's kids, yes, that Loki, tossed into the sea by Odin, where he grew into a planet-sized ocean noodle. His job? Cosmic boundary enforcement. His presence keeps the world intact, or at least evenly pressured. But if he ever lets go, it triggers Ragnarok. So, no breaks allowed. Jörmungandr rarely speaks, rarely moves, just exists underwater, forever holding the tension of reality together with his teeth. He's a divine cable tie, a scaly circuit breaker. And during Ragnarok, he's scheduled to rise, poison the skies, and fight Thor to the death. Occupational hazards, you know. But until then, he just floats, silent, waiting, guarding not a door or a riddle, but the edge of existence itself. And now, as we surface from the depths, it's time to meet a new department. The pencil pushers, the multitaskers, and the immortal interns who keep the divine world spinning behind the scenes. Starting with the fleet-footed trickster himself, Hermes. If Olympus had a filing cabinet, Hermes would be inside it, scribbling memos, stealing snacks, and somehow still showing up late to his own job. Hermes is the god of communication, travel, commerce, thievery, and guiding souls to the afterlife. That's right. The same god who helps merchants haggle also escorts the dead. Multitasking, divine edition. Wearing winged sandals and a helmet that screams, "Don't question it," Hermes zips between realms. His messages don't come with read receipts, but they do come with flair. He's the one god who can enter and exit the underworld without raising alarms, which makes him either very trusted or very slippery. And while some gods need ceremonies or temples, Hermes just needs a good pair of shoes and a solid hustle. He's clever, charming, and fluent in every language, including sarcasm. Think of him as a divine startup CEO with a minor god gig on the side. Always on the move, always one step ahead, and probably the reason your wallet went missing during prayer. Of course, he doesn't deliver all divine messages. Some of them arrive with a more graceful, less chaotic touch, which brings us to someone who prefers light speed and soft pastels. While Hermes delivers chaos, Iris delivers clarity. As the goddess of the rainbow and the divine messenger for Hera, Iris operates the universe's most colorful communication line. She doesn't shout, she doesn't prank. She simply appears in a shimmer of light, passes along a godly memo, and vanishes before anyone can ask for a selfie. Iris is swift, graceful, and emotionally neutral. You'll never catch her giggling mid-doom prophecy. She just delivers the message, whether it's a blessing or a curse. Her wings glint, her robes flow, and somehow, she always smells like early spring. Unlike Hermes, who dabbles in everything, Iris specializes in being helpful. She also doesn't overstay her welcome, which is rare for an immortal. You might glimpse her across a storm-drenched sky, but by the time you blink, she's already on her next divine delivery. Elegant, efficient, probably deeply underpaid. And for our next office god, let's meet the one who writes everything down, even when you wish he wouldn't. Thoth doesn't rest. He records. In ancient Egyptian mythology, Thoth invented hieroglyphs, managed divine law, calculated calendars, and possibly pioneered passive-aggressive scroll notes. If it needed to be written, remembered, or catalogued for eternity. Thoth was your god. He has the head of an ibis, the posture of someone who's been hunched over too many dusty records, and the mental processing power of an immortal librarian with no coffee breaks. He's the patron of scribes, accountants, magicians, and every overworked admin who ever muttered, "I should have been a blacksmith." But don't mistake him for just a paperwork drone. Thoth helped weigh souls, balance cosmic order, and sometimes wrote the fates of mortals directly into history. That's right. He literally published people's lives. He also invented magic spells, which feels a bit unfair coming from the guy who already runs the cosmic database. But hey, myth gods multitask. Still, even Thoth occasionally has to defer to higher authorities, like the terrifying thread-cutting trio we're about to meet next. Clotho spins, Lachesis measures, Atropos cuts. Together, they're the fates, Three ancient figures who manage the life of every mortal as a single, fragile thread. They don't speak much. They don't blink. They just work. You don't meet the fates. You are on their to-do list. They determine your lifespan, often without your consent, and absolutely without explanation. Forget prayers or sacrifices. The fates aren't bribable. They're not gods. They're something older, a little scarier. Even Zeus steps back when they're busy. They spin the threads of kings, warriors, shepherds, and toddlers. They decide when a thread ends, no matter how heroic or tragic the timing. And once Atropos makes that snip, that's it. No appeal, no extensions. You can try to outsmart fate, but fate doesn't get bored. It just waits. And if your thread ends in death, well, someone has to deal with that backlog too. In Hindu mythology, when your thread is cut, you don't just drift into the afterlife. You report to Yama. Yama is the god of death, the afterlife's chief judge, and the king of orderly endings. He sits on a massive throne surrounded by soul files, each one containing your deeds, intentions, and very questionable browser history. There's no escaping him. He's thorough, fair, and doesn't laugh at jokes. He rides a buffalo. He carries a noose. His assistants, the Yamadutas, fetch souls and drag them in for processing. You don't get a lawyer. You get a scorecard. Yama doesn't torture. He doesn't bless. He just assigns you where to go next, based on what you've done. Heaven, hell, reincarnation. Paperwork first, questions later. His kingdom isn't evil. It's bureaucratic and endless. But there are some mythological workers who prefer softer hours. Instead of judging or scolding, they protect your dreams. So let's dim the lights and meet the night shift. When the lights go out and your nightmares creep in, there's one mythological creature who might casually wander through your subconscious and eat them. Meet Baku, a Japanese dream eater with the head of an elephant, the body of a bear, and the vibe of a very strange bedtime guest. Baku isn't evil, just weird and helpful, kind of. In ancient folklore, children were taught to whisper a phrase before bed. Baku, come eat my bad dream. If he was feeling generous, he'd slurp the nightmare right out of your mind like psychic ramen. If he wasn't, well, he might just eat all your dreams, good and bad, and leave you in blank, dreamless silence. He's a bit of a wild card, but in a mythological workforce full of judgment, fire, and rage, Baku feels like the sleepy janitor of the brain. Weirdly comforting, a little unsettling, but surprisingly efficient. Still, someone has to actually create those dreams in the first place and moderate the surreal chaos that comes with them. So let's head deeper into the dream realm, where one particular god handles sleep like a carefully scheduled performance. Morpheus doesn't wear a name tag, but he should. He's the manager of dreams, curator of surreal metaphors, and likely responsible for that dream you had where your old math teacher was also a flamingo. In Greek mythology, Morpheus is the god of dreams, specifically the one who shapes them. He crafts visions out of nothing, folds in memories, symbols, warnings, and sometimes a dash of nonsense, then delivers them straight into your sleep like psychic theater. His job? Make the dreams vivid, strange, sometimes meaningful, but never boring. He doesn't control your fate. He just scripts your mental movies. And if you've ever woken up asking, what was that about? Morpheus probably smirked and rolled onto the next client. But dreams and death often walk side by side. Which brings us to his quieter co-worker, who doesn't bring visions, but rather a gentle end. Thanatos doesn't carry a scythe. He doesn't wear a hood. He doesn't chase people or whisper riddles. In Greek mythology, Thanatos is the personification of peaceful death, the one who arrives without drama, no screams, no fire, just a quiet presence, gently separating soul from body, like extinguishing a candle. He's not a villain. He's not even feared in the same way Hades might be. If anything, he's reliable, calm, inevitable. Thanatos shows up for the elderly, the weary, and those who've reached the end of their thread. And while the fates may decide when, it's Thanatos who makes sure the moment itself is still, respectful, and clean. He's often mistaken for Sleep's sibling, and for good reason. In fact, his literal brother is the god of sleep. And unlike Thanatos, that brother loves staying on the job long before the end arrives. Let's meet him next. Hypnos doesn't storm in. He drifts. He's the Greek god of sleep. And he works overtime. No thunder, no lectures. Just a gentle touch, a fog behind the eyes. And before you know it, you're in dreams you didn't plan for. His realm lies deep in the underworld, where poppies bloom and rivers move without sound. Hypnos lives in a cave where night always falls, and the sun never enters. Why? Because sleep doesn't need an audience. He's subtle, so subtle, in fact, that even the gods couldn't resist his power. Hera once asked him to knock Zeus out mid-scheme, and Hypnos did it, twice, with 0 consequences. He puts mortals and immortals to sleep equally. No judgment, no announcements, just results. But not all things that happen at night are peaceful. Some bring fear, sudden, irrational, and loud. So before you get too comfortable, let's visit the god who invented panic. Pan does not whisper, he shrieks. This half-goat, half-man deity of the wild is responsible for sudden, irrational fear, the kind that hits your spine before your brain can explain it. We get the word panic from his name. And yes, he's proud of it. Pan lives in forests, caves, and every echoing mountain pass where you feel like something's watching. He doesn't try to scare people, but when he screams, nature responds. Flocks scatter, hooves thunder, soldiers run. He's a free spirit, plays the panpipes, dances under moonlight. But he's also unpredictable. You don't schedule a visit from Pan, you stumble into it, and hope you don't drop everything and sprint. His job. Remind you that the world is wild, and you're not always in control, especially when you thought you were just going for a peaceful hike. But now that we've screamed under the stars and dreamed through the dark, it's time to meet the mythological creatives, sculptors, artists, chaos agents with hobbies. Let's see what they've been building. Hephaestus doesn't do drama. He builds it. He's the blacksmith of Olympus, god of fire, forge, invention, and uncomfortable family dynamics. Born with a limp, tossed off Mount Olympus by his own mother, and later married off to Aphrodite like a consolation prize, Hephaestus has every reason to be bitter. Instead, he gets to work. Need a throne that traps the sitter? A chain that no god can break? An automatic golden robot assistant? Hephaestus is your guy. He crafts armor for Achilles, lightning for Zeus, and jewelry that ruins relationships. His workshop glows with molten bronze, whirring gears, and pure divine sarcasm. He doesn't talk much, but his creations do, often by starting wars. And while he's hammering divine grudges into metal, another god is plucking strings and unleashing plagues, sometimes in the same breath. Apollo has range. He's the Greek god of music, medicine, poetry, truth, archery, and sudden god-tier mood swings. 1 minute, he's serenading the mortals with his lyre. The next, He's firing plague arrows into their livestock for balance. Apollo is all about duality, light and darkness, healing and harm, art and accuracy. He inspired the Oracle of Delphi, yet cursed the woman who refused to date him. He protects the young, but once tried to wipe out an entire bloodline with a well-placed pestilence. Still, he's charming, radiant, golden, and probably the reason your favorite poet had a nervous breakdown and a burst of genius in the same week. But where Apollo conducts, another god directs, in wine, madness, and very questionable theatre. Dionysus is the god who throws a party and then makes you question your soul. He rules wine, ecstasy, theatre, and chaos, often in that exact order. His cults were wild, his rituals weirder, and his followers, let's just say they didn't believe in moderation. Born from Zeus's thigh, long story, Dionysus spent his divine career blurring every line between joy and madness, reality and illusion, mortals and gods. He gave mortals the gift of losing control, and then watched what happened next. And yet, despite the delirium, Dionysus also brought art, drama, catharsis. He invented theatre so humans could laugh, cry, scream, and exorcise their personal tragedies on stage instead of at family dinners. Still, every chaotic performance needs a little inspiration, and that's where the real multitasking begins. If you've ever had an idea hit you like lightning at 3 a.m., you probably annoyed a muse. There are 9 of them, each with a specialty: epic poetry, history, comedy, tragedy, dance, music, astronomy, lyric poetry, and flute solos you pretend to enjoy. Together, they form the divine creative department of Mount Olympus. They don't make the art, they whisper it, one line at a time. They haunt artists, torment playwrights, and sometimes vanish for decades mid-project. Muse logic, they won't write your poem, but they'll nudge your hand, then leave you spiraling when they vanish halfway through the second stanza. They're powerful, fickle, and eternally overbooked. And if they do help you win eternal glory with your painting or ballad, they expect 0 credit, but full emotional collapse. And yet, for all their finesse, some gods just skip the metaphor entirely and hand humanity something dangerous. Which brings us to mythology's most infamous overgiver. Prometheus didn't file a ticket. He just gave humans the fire. Fire meant warmth, cooking, tools, civilization, progress, and according to Zeus, way too much independence. So Prometheus got punished, not with a warning, not with a fine, but with eternal liver duty. Every day, an eagle comes to eat his liver. Every night, it regenerates, on loop, forever. No HR department, no appeal. Still, Prometheus never apologized. He believed in humanity, even if we didn't exactly thank him with clean energy policies. His job was never official, but it changed the world, which leads us into another set of mythological figures who also didn't sign up properly. Cursed freelancers, echo chambers, and divine interns with the worst contracts imaginable. Let's start with someone whose job is to repeat everything you say, literally. Echo didn't sign up for this. She used to talk, a lot. She was charming, chatty, and had a voice that could melt stone, and maybe even a few mountain gods. But when she got caught covering for Zeus's wandering habits, long story, recurring theme, Hera didn't just silence her. She rewrote her job description. Now Echo can't speak first. She can only repeat what others say. Imagine working in customer service where every conversation is just echoing back complaints. Forever. No mute button, no promotion path. Just long walks through forests and caves, repeating the last words of lost travelers. She once fell in love with Narcissus, the guy who fell in love with his own reflection. He ignored her, rejected her, and she faded away, repeating the one word she wished he'd say back. But even in fragments, echo lingers. In canyons, in ruins, in awkward conversations where someone says, hello, and hears it bounce back, sad and alone. A lonely job. But at least she doesn't have to keep her eyes open all the time. That's someone else's contract. Argus had one job. Watch everything. Literally. He had 100 eyes. Some on his face, some on his arms. Some probably in places we're better off not knowing. The upside? No one could sneak past him. The downside? He could never sleep. So he rotated his eyes. Some closed while others stayed open. It was less restful and more like having 100 tiny night shifts, all staggered. He guarded nymphs, cattle, sacred places, all without question. He didn't chat, didn't blink, just watched. Eventually, Hermes was sent to retire him, and once Argus passed, Hera honored his service by putting his eyes on the tail of a peacock. It's beautiful, but also mildly insulting. At least Argus didn't have to live in snow. That job goes to someone who chose it. Skadi is that co-worker who loves the cold and expects you to love it too. A giantess with a grudge, she marched into the halls of the gods demanding justice for her father's death. The compromise, a job, a husband, and the worst commute in mythology. They told her to choose a husband by looking only at his feet. She picked the prettiest ones, hoping for Balder, the golden god. Instead, she got Njord, the sea god. Saltwater and frostbite don't mix. She hated his ocean life. He hated her mountains. So they split the year. One cold, one damp, both miserable. But Skadi got her snow. She skis down glaciers, hunts in blizzards, throws blinding storms like conference room tantrums. And when someone questions her enthusiasm, she reminds them she took down gods with a bow. Cold-hearted, sure, but nothing freezes quite like being forced into a divine marriage contract. Although some divine jobs come with even weirder co-workers, Chiron wasn't like other centaurs. While most were out partying, fighting, and generally wrecking the forest, Chiron was teaching calculus to demigods, or close enough. He tutored heroes in medicine, ethics, archery, music, and probably existential dread. He taught Achilles, Asclepius, Heracles, Jason, basically every overachiever with a tragic backstory. And he did it with patience, compassion, a lot of bandages, and probably way too many unpaid overtime hours. Despite being immortal, Chiron's story ends painfully. Heracles accidentally shoots him with a poisoned arrow. The wound never heals, and Chiron, master of healing, can't save himself. So he gives up his immortality to free Prometheus. Teaching job, eternal pain, and still sacrificing himself for someone else. Chiron might be the only mythological figure who deserves a pension. Unfortunately, the Underworld HR department is run by someone else entirely. Speaking of which, Tantalus was rich, royal, and very bad at boundaries. He stole from the gods. He tried to feed them human stew, and he revealed divine secrets like it was party gossip. The gods, shockingly, weren't amused. So now he stands in a pool of water under a fruit tree. Every time he leans down to drink, the water recedes. Every time he reaches for a pear, the branches rise. Thirsty, hungry, close to everything, allowed nothing. His punishment invented the word tantalize, and his job, eternal demonstration of look but don't touch. a cosmic cautionary tale. And with that, we clock out from the strangest workforce mythology ever built. So, that was the divine job board, a rotating list of roles no one really applied for, yet somehow got stuck doing. From charioteering the sun without hazard pay, to getting liver pecked on repeat for eternity. The ancient world had no concept of work-life balance. You had gods of panic, secretaries of the underworld, nightmare janitors, freelance forest screamers, and one poor soul doomed to stare at fruit forever. Some jobs were symbolic, some were cosmic, some were clearly created out of spite, but every one of them had a purpose. Sort of. Maybe not a healthy purpose, but a role, a story, a myth that somehow made the universe feel slightly more organized, or at least more dramatic. And when you zoom out, it's kind of beautiful in its chaos. Even the immortals had jobs. Even the divine needed structure. And even in the most ridiculous, over-the-top punishments, there was always a reminder. Someone's got to do the weird stuff. Whether it's spinning the threads of fate, guarding a dream realm, or inventing anxiety in goat form. Someone's clocking in, and they've been on the shift for a few thousand years now. So if you had a long day, just remember, at least you're not holding up the entire sky on your back, or running tech support for an ungrateful species. Thanks for joining tonight, wherever you are, and whatever time it is there. Seriously, we hope your shift is over, your bed is warm, and your dreams involve zero mythological HR violations. Sleep well. May your job be easier than rolling a boulder uphill forever, or, carrying the sun